Hey everybody, welcome back to the YouTube channel Marketing Tips, Tricks, and Insights. I'm Scott Berg, CMO from small to medium to large businesses, multiple verticals, managed all the different types of functions underneath marketing at one point in time during my career. Had a lot of people ask me if I provide this type of information in the marketplace, so YouTube and videos are really the best way to do that. So thus, we have this channel itself. Again, it's here to provide the information and content to you as marketers. It's very authentic. I'm not going to do fancy production on things, etc., because the content's the most important thing out there in the marketplace. I will not pull punches either. I will tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay? So, the topic of this episode is marketing budgets and the shift. Hold your applause because I know this is going to be the most important video that any of you watch, but it is important. Let's be honest about it, okay? Without budgets and financing, you don't really do any marketing whatsoever. Okay, so first, let me give you my philosophy as it relates to marketing and budgets. You wouldn't spend $1 in marketing unless it's there to help drive sales. Why invest in something that doesn't help drive sales? That's what we all say in marketing. We all say that we drive sales, we drive leads, and that we're there to drive the brand. But yet, so many times, we don't really take the responsibility associated with that. But you have to, okay? We'll have a further video on that later down the line. But what I want to talk about today is the shifts in the types of marketing budgets and the shifts as it relates specifically to working and non-working budgets, marketing budgets. So let's go back and do a quick refresh. The typical marketing budget, which has been laid out in the past, and most companies are still doing it today, that typical marketing budget split happens to be in two different categories. Working budget and non-working budget, okay, or working media and non-working media, it used to be called. A working budget is that which is really demand generation oriented. So it tends to be advertising commercials, it tends to be email, it tends to be any of those types of functional aspects like sponsorships or events or whatever it may be that are there, they're front facing to a customer, okay? The second aspect, or the non-working budget, tend to be things such as headcount expenses, employee expenses, maybe capital, agency fees typically get put into that budget as well. Now the split has typically been, with most companies, they try to do either a 70-30, or 70% of their dollars are going out in the marketplace as working and 30% is non-working for, again, salaries, agency fees, etc. Maybe it's 60-40, something along those lines. But it's always where you're going to have more on the working side versus the non-working side. However, marketing has changed, okay? And we know that we're spending a lot more money on platforms, and that leads are being driven through those platforms automatically, as well as the different types of tactics and activities that we use have now changed as well. Now, you're going to be dealing with your finance department first. The word marketing and finance typically don't collide in the same sentence, folks. We typically are on the opposite sides of the organization. They try to keep those two groups apart from one another, I think, in most organizations. And with that in mind, finance always tends to come in with one giant spreadsheet, that you have to fill out your marketing budget by. You're going to do this, 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 and this, right? And those categories are typically not relative to marketing, okay? So sometimes when you're looking at those categories, you don't know whether or not to scratch your watch or wind your butt. So it gets difficult to try to put the categories align. So what I've done is I've actually started with, how do I define my budget from a working and non-working capital budget? Now, it's changed, as I mentioned earlier. So now what you've got to do is you've got to start to take into consideration the different changes associated with how we actually apply our budgets. So marketing definitions have changed, number one. Number two, the expansion on reliances on platforms and channels. 3, increased insourcing versus outsourcing, changing demand generation tactics such as account-based marketing, MQLs, nurture campaigns, and the reduced reliance on mass marketing. So we've gotten a much more fine-tuned marketing aspect than what we've had before. So moving forward, start to take a look at your budgets in the proper ways. From a working budget perspective, right? Take a look at things that, yes, media and advertising and those typical things, and your front-facing marketing campaigns, but also look at website management, SEO, MQL, leads, putting your social platforms into that, e-commerce, content, search, data, MQL generation, platforms, etc. What I think you're starting to see is that those platforms are being identified as customer-facing platforms. Now, yes, you may have them in the tech side. The problem with that is that it's not really reflecting what you're doing in the marketplace. So take a look and talk to your finance head about how things have changed. Your non-working continues to be headcount expenses, and that is including the insourcing that may be going on. Agency vendor and fees, as well as your capital costs associated with projects and so on. When it comes to the agencies in the headcount expenses, if you're insourcing, you should see basically a change in those two areas. If you're insourcing more of your work, you should actually see a decrease in your agency's budget and fees so that they can apply then to the headcount budget. They may not be exactly the same, but keep that in mind that you should try to align that appropriately. So again, the budget situation has changed. Take a look at how you budget, put it into these working and non-working categories, and then start to apply them to the finance spreadsheets that they send you to align appropriately. Now, it's probably not going to align perfectly as it has in the past, and your numbers are going to be a little bit different, and you're going to show that you're up in this category and down in that category. But I think you need to start to explain to finance and to management that you're doing this to better be reflective of the types of things that you're spending your money on to drive demand and drive sales versus that is not driving demand and driving sales. We're going to talk a little bit more about budgets in some videos coming up, but given that we're in 3Q of 2020, budgeting for 2021 is going to start to take effect shortly. You're going to have access to the PowerPoint that I've put together here. You can actually pick that up at the link below on my website, and you can go directly to it. It's not gated, so you can pull down whatever you want. If you would, and you like the channel, subscribe to it so you can get the latest updates and videos themselves. Go ahead and share the video, share the site with your friends, families, loved ones. Everybody wants to hear about this stuff. And certainly you can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. And if I can provide you any insights, please let me know. Provide your comments down below or questions. Look forward to hearing from you, and take care. Thanks.